Without you guys, we would not be standing here because we can only keep what we have by giving it away to you guys. Thanks to you for sharing, and thanks to my previous sharers. Okay, I'm shaking, I'm nervous, but here we go. Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I'm going to read a bit from step 6 about how it works and why, and then explain my experience that I've seen so far. The insight we gained in step 5 regarding the exact nature of our wrongs, while valuable, is only the beginning of the striking changes that take place in our lives as we move on to step 6. That for me already shows me that I can identify my defects of character in others when I just stand there and I look and I'm like, that's justification, that's avoiding it. That's all the things I used to do. I used to justify my being right. Even though I knew I was wrong, I would justify why I was right, and I would manipulate the person into thinking I was right when they all knew I was wrong. That is what I used to do. I used to lie a lot. Well, in my head, it was not lying. It was like white lies. But I would never tell you the truth. I'd never, ever tell you the truth. I used to have that fear of being judged, but yet I judged people as well. I used to have that fear of not being able to actually stand and talk like I am now. Even yesterday when I was chatting to Dean, and we were both discussing how nervous we were, I was like, this is not about us anymore. We've been newcomers. We've sat in those seats. This is about carrying the message of NA and how it's worked for us in our lives. And I'm going to read some more. Although some of us have not understood the critical importance of the 6th and 7th steps, they are the essential actions that must be taken if we expect to make any significant and lasting changes in our lives. We cannot simply say, yes, I'm ready. God, please remove my defects, and go on to step 8. If we gloss over the 6th and 7th steps and go on and make our amends, we'll only wind up owing more amends by repeating the same destructive patterns as before. Now, for me, when I was still inactive, I would form a bubble, and I would keep people out of that bubble because I was safe. No one would enter, because I always had that fear of being hurt. So I would rather hurt you first and have you hate me than have you hurt me and then me resent you. I used to keep that for a very long time. And this past 2 weeks leading up to convention, my defects have come out. Even this morning, I was stuck in my own head, in my own bubble, and I didn't want people in it. I didn't want anyone coming into my bubble and ruining my happy place, so to say, where it's safe. But I know it's okay that I can be upset, I can cry, I can laugh, I can have all those feelings, but as long as I don't pick up, I don't have to go and pick up because I feel those things. Whereas in my defects and inactive, you hurt me, it would be an excuse for me to go pick up and use, whether it be alcohol or narcotics, whether it be legal or illegal, it didn't matter. It was doing this step 6 and noticing where my defects came into play. There was a lot. Like, the list could go on forever. I just kept writing. There was pages and pages. But the main thing that it came down to, and someone reminded me of this last night, was my fear. I'm a very fearful person. Even in the mornings when I wake up, after having my nervous breakdowns, I'm still very fearful of leaving my house, especially in the mornings. But that same saying goes through my head every day. If you wake up, you get dressed, and you show up, no matter how you feel. And half the time, I really don't feel like being out. I like the safety of my bed where I don't have to be Jessica for a day. I want to be laying there in self-pity and despair and thinking the world owes me, when actually it doesn't. I owe the world after my wrongful doings that I've done. It's very difficult sometimes in the morning for me to get up because of my fearfulness. I don't always want to be at a meeting. I don't always want to be out and about. And that is also part of my defects, is not wanting to go out. My fear is I'm very fearful of what might happen. I'm fearful of running into the people I used to use with, which, thanks to my higher power, I have had that. I have bumped into people I've used with. I've bumped into my dealers before. And for me, when I moved back home to Durban, it was a bit of a shock. Bumping into all of them, I didn't expect it so soon. Because I'm extremely OCD, where I plan my life according to times. This hour I can do this, that hour I can do that. And that is how I plan my life. Sometimes if things don't go according to how I want them, I kind of freak out and I have like a panic attack. But it's again part of my fear of things not going, of me not knowing. It's that fear of the unknown that I don't like it. Because in Active, I knew where I was going, I knew what I was doing, I knew how life was. Now I'm handing it over. I've got to surrender every morning and pray to my higher power to help me get rid of those defects of character. This morning I was sitting after having a shower and I read the Just for Today, and ironically it's on fear. And I was like, if that's not my higher power telling me what to speak on, then I don't know what is. And then over here it says, take a defect such as self-righteousness, for example, and imagine it in its normal, uninflated state, confident belief in one's own values. That for me is really, really something, because I never had any values. I mean, I never had any morals. I never had any principles when I was inactive. Coming into the program and doing my steps, I discovered I do have morals, I do have these principles, and I do have standards that I've set for myself. I've even done a bucket list and a goals list, and for me that is something that's keeping me going, where I've done 2 things on my bucket list. Each yearly milestone that I've passed, I'll do something crazy out of my comfort zone to show myself that I can actually do this, that I am worth something. Going back into that life where I felt very unworthy and I didn't belong, because that for me is also my biggest fear, that I didn't belong. So I had to act a certain way, dress a certain way, and then I'd fit in. It doesn't work like that. I get to be who I am. Whether I live in socks and jeans, which is 90% of the time, it's okay. I don't have to be of a certain way to fit in with people. And those were hard things for me to actually accept, that those were defects that I needed to see. I needed to sit with my sponsor and tell her, like, I'm stuck in my head. And I actually told her last night that I'm stuck in my head. I need to get out of this. And her reply was, you know people there, you'll be fine. Good night. And I was like, really? Good night, I need you now. I'm freaking, I'm losing my marbles. And you're just like, no, it's fine, good night. So those are part of my defects, where I want things done and I want them done now. And sometimes this program reminds me, especially my sponsor, that I must take a step back. I must give myself a break. In Active, we were constantly on the go. Now I get to not be as chaotic. I just get to take one day at a time. And if I feel like doing nothing and being on my own, I'm okay with that. And I actually enjoy that. Some days I make plans to just be on my own and disappear. And yeah, so that is all that I'm going to share. Thank you guys for letting me share.